Well, good morning. Yes, it's past midnight Eastern time in the United States, but here it's, of course, going on 10 o'clock at night. Or, yeah, it's at night here. Uh, it would be past noon, I guess, in the morning. Anyway, forget the time change. I'm in Australia, and I haven't changed my watch, as I've said before. The title of the video for today is a question. What changes can we expect? Peter and I continue to discuss the world situation here in Canberra that began with Colin and John in Melbourne and on the trip here from there. Peter is of the opinion that the most important changes must take place in human consciousness on an individual level. I have long thought that the masses will not be able to change as long as the mind control of the cabal or until the mind control of the cabal is taken down. To me, both are necessary. If we are to keep the world from being destroyed as it has apparently been in the past, as I've said many times throughout my life, I have felt since childhood that I was here to help bring the kingdom of heaven to earth. If that is not true, I feel I have lived my life in vain. When I think that, I feel hopeless, along with other feelings we call negative. Indeed, as I woke up this morning, or it's still night, as I said, but as I woke up and I laid there before I even got out of the little bed that Peter set up for me, I was just pondering again, as I always do, pondering the situation that we find ourselves in as humans on this planet that, to me, the worse things get, the more God-forsaken it seems. And I have long cried out to God, when are you going to do something about it? And, Peter is right that until at least enough people have been able to move to a higher consciousness, and I don't mean a consciousness of escapism. I don't mean a consciousness of ignorance where you ignore everything that you don't want to acknowledge because you don't want to acknowledge it. That those things will never bring real change. All it brings in is a false perception of some kind of security that's not really there. I used to feel that myself until I had things happen in my life that made me realize that I'm not secure in this world, neither can I be as long as criminals control police departments and armies and financial situations so that we are dependent on a corrupted system. And how do you change the corruption without some kind of divine intervention that disempowers those that are falsely empowered? This is the dilemma, the conundrum that I have to face as a human being wanting to see a good world, a positive world, a world where we can actually become fulfilled and not always feel threatened by some external force. And so many of us believe, and I think there's truth in it. I don't think it's the end all truth, but we're all one, and everything that exists out there is in each of us. And I do believe that that's true. Uh, but I don't believe, for example, that I or any other human being can bring the changes in the structure of the cabal's world. And it's their world until we can shift that and make it God's world. I don't even know if I'm making sense to you, but these are the things that I'm wrestling with as I listen to Peter and Colin and to John, and I'm sure others entering into similar discussions. It's a challenge. It's a tremendous challenge. Now, I did have a talk with the ambassador yesterday on Skype, and he's going to try to connect me with some people here in Melbourne that might be able to help me. Uh, and of course, I've reached out because I've changed my plans from what I thought I was going to be doing here in Australia. I just simply cannot make some of the trips that were suggested to me by Alish. I don't have the physical capability, if you will, of making these long drives. I mean, I have to get on once I get things established so that I know that I'm uh, have places to stay here in Melbourne and that I can basically cover the costs of staying here in Melbourne. Then I have to make changes to the air flights and make sure that I'm not cramped between seats that don't have enough leg room. Uh, I need to try to adjust that and sit in front of an exit so that I can stretch my legs out because I just simply cannot handle the crampedness. I mean, you folks have no idea how much that hurts, physically hurts, when I'm trying to get comfortable when it's not comfortable and it's impossible to sleep. Again, I went a day and a half or more without any sleep at all, and I still haven't completely caught up uh, in that department, and I don't know if I will till I go back. And I'm in some communication with my son because Peter's daughter and my granddaughter are the same age, and they're both interested in something very, very similar with this Japanese, whatever it is. I don't even know what it's called. It's like to me, it's a cartoon, but I guess it's more than just that. And they're both into that thing. So I'm trying to connect them so they can at least email each other. Um, Peter's daughter, of course, is not on Facebook or anything, so it just has to be done through email. But in any case, I'm trying to work many things out, and I'm uh, in a situation where I've had to shift my perspectives, and they may still be in the process of shifting. But like I said in the blurb, uh, if the kingdom of heaven isn't going to happen in my lifetime, then why am I here? Because that's since I was a consciously, since I was at least a teenager, that's what I believed it was. I couldn't, of course, articulate it earlier. I felt it earlier than teenage years, but I couldn't articulate it. And of course, the articulation, my explanation, has changed as I've been able to digest other ideas and other options and other perspectives. But I haven't lost the basic core value that this is the time that we must shift into the kingdom of heaven. And that is not a kingdom run by psychopaths. It is not a kingdom run by insane people who haven't done any inner work at all, whose whole modus operandi is about control, 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 and amassing wealth at everybody else's expense when the true value always, always comes from us, the regular human beings. It's invested in all of us, and none of us are superior to anyone else. We all have our right to the heritage of prosperity that is ours by in creation as I see it. That's the way that I look at the world and the way that I look at things, and that hasn't changed. The inner work, though, as Peter rightly says, is essential. There must be enough of us that do the inner work. And what does that mean? It doesn't mean that we go out there and we keep trying to play the money game. The money game is not the game. That that's a system that's set up of control and of slavery. And ultimately that has to end too. But but we're here now. We're in that world now. And so we need money. And I got so much criticism and so many dislikes yesterday on yesterday's video because I'm asking for money. Well, that's the way it is. That's the way the world is, and I just noticed it's just past 10 minutes now that I've been recording. So in any case, I don't want to prolong this, um, but these are things that I'm hashing and rehashing in my mind, uh, and trying to find a solution and answers that will help me continue on here in Australia, and then when I go back to the US and figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. So thank you very much for listening, and once again, namaste.